may have heard of this phrase, those who can't do, teach. I'm here to invert this outdated myth to those who can do, teach. With a small shift in mindset, we would be encouraging specialists to pursue their additional passions as an amateur or professional, and schools to retain their expertise. Who am I? I'm an English teacher at Bangkok Patana School with a commitment for seeing the success of my students. I'm also a published author of 10 books. My latest, a series on teaching creative writing through art. I'm a writer. I publish fiction, poetry, travel, arts catalogs, arts reviews in magazines globally. I'm an artist, exhibiting in galleries. I'm a curator. I'm a researcher into teacher-artist issues and the relationship between visual art and writing. I've presented on these topics in conferences in schools as an academic. And although I've been featured in the affordable Melbourne Art Fair television commercial, I wouldn't consider myself being anywhere near an actress. Adding to my ongoing identity are my past experiences in the creative industry, such as having been a casual museum educator at the National Gallery of Victoria and conference manager of the Art Association of Australia and New Zealand. Today, I still utilize the skills and knowledge that I've gained from these experiences to enhance my students' critical and creative thinking. I've lived all these roles whilst teaching almost always full-time in schools across Australia, the UK, and now in Thailand. Amid my school commitments, I've managed to achieve recognition in the media for my artistic endeavors and education pedagogy. Now, a question I often get asked is, why teach if you can do so many other things? Or shouldn't artists do and teachers just teach? Underlying these two questions are issues. That we believe teaching and doing are not mutually supportive commitments, and that career paths must be linear rather than organically experienced, such as mine. Since I was in school, I was already publishing in major newspapers and magazines, not wanting to relinquish one passion for the other. I wanted to pursue everything that I loved into a career and did just that, graduating with a Master of Teaching, a Master of Art Administration, and a Bachelor of Creative Arts in Literature and Visual Art. Upon graduating, I realized that in this interdisciplinary world called life, we can avoid clear-cut disciplinary boundaries of identity and explanation to this question, who am I? Which, if you were a third culture kid from an international school, is perplexing as the question, where are you from? As I articulate in my exhibition catalog, The Sensations of Art Making, I do because it's non-negotiable to my well-being. I thrive on the freedom of creativity. I do because I enjoy engaging in my interests in and outside my subject disciplines and developing my skills. I do because I experience firsthand the value of practicing what I preach has on my students who benefit from my private practice. Recently, a Year 11 student shared with me a poem that she wrote in response to a poem that I wrote and had modeled to the class. She was so inspired by my writing that she mustered up the self-esteem to independently experiment, share her work, and then ask for my feedback. It's only when I get time to engage in my craft and share what I'm doing outside of the classroom with my students that I see unexpected rewards such as this. Through my publishing, I've engaged in writing different text types. I feel I'm more compassionate to my students as a result, who are undergoing the same processes as I am. I engage my students in authentic learning situations, such as having embedded in the English curriculum publishing units whereby students became authors of their own work and attended their own book launch, seeing enhanced motivation and student ownership of their writing. Now, doing whilst teaching doesn't come without its challenges. In my initial year in the profession, I had to unite the conflict of identities that I felt between the teacher and the artist to inherit two completely different worlds, one being more regulated and accountable than the other. I struggled with time that I so desperately needed to express rather than repress my creativity. In nurturing my students' talents, I had to nurture my own. I worked hard to adapt to different frames of minds and routines required for each role. Eventually, I found a balance that worked for me full-time in the profession for the last 5 years, accepting that teaching and doing support each other magnificently, that they can't be lived separately, that I didn't have to give up my craft at all. Yet, more than a teacher, I kept searching for self-definition to this question: who am I? It wasn't until I started working at the Melbourne Graduate School of Education as a lecturer and co-researcher that I arrived at this self-definition. The teacher as practitioner. A practitioner is a person who is actively engaged in a specialist art form, discipline, or profession. In essence, they are all artists. Through my involvement in the Teacher as Practitioner project administered by the Melbourne Graduate School of Education, I encountered a whole body of literature that documents the struggles that practitioners who teach face and the benefits of their expertise in schools. The research shows that those who manage to sustain a successful teacher and practitioner relationship have an increased desire for professional longevity in teaching, such as I. Today, the Teacher as Practitioner project supports teachers who go beyond the arts, such as environmental education, mathematics, and science. As curator of the project, I curated multiple exhibitions that supported early career art teachers who were struggling to maintain an artistic practice as they taught. Claire Mooney was one participant from the project. She says that the exhibitions were instrumental in launching her back into her artistic practice as an early career full-time art teacher. She says that the rewards are so great that if you only have a spark of it, it's worth nurturing. Today, she's reduced to part-time teaching in order to better establish her art. She's now exhibiting in art fairs, galleries, and taking commissions for her work. She also says that her teaching inspires her art making. She's learned a broad range of technical skills through teaching art. Simultaneously, she acknowledges that her experience in the creative industry helps her support her students through their creative journeys. Clearly, there is a reciprocal relationship. Yet, in my time researching and teaching in schools across Australia and the UK, I've encountered many teacher as practitioners who weren't able to sustain in the institution, such as Liz Johnson, an Australian-based professional sculptor, who left teaching after 2 terms full-time in the profession, saying that the rigidity of the school system was unfitting to her work as an artist. Today, loving educating, she still continues to deliver workshops privately. What a cost to schools who would otherwise benefit from such expertise. In our school, we are fortunate to have full-time teacher as practitioners who are successfully nurturing their talents and making a visible impact on student learning. Miss Davis, an English teacher at Bangkok Patana School, is also a performer at the Bangkok Community Theatre. She utilizes her drama background to facilitate the study of literature texts, giving students a hands-on learning experience, such as in this Year 10 lesson on Macbeth. She often sets up the classroom as she would for a stage within a performance. Mr. Fern, head of art at Bangkok Patana School, engages in his art making to model exemplary work to his students, setting high expectations. He also encourages art teachers in the school to produce art and exhibit alongside their own students' work, such as in the IB Arts Exhibition in 2016, which saw a mutually supportive environment with enhanced rapport between students and teachers who were discussing their practices, and an increased credibility on part of the educators whose passion was clearly at the forefront of their teaching. The key solutions I propose involve schools and educators taking chances in order to nurture, retain, and see the positive impact of the teacher as practitioner, who have so much to offer. Schools can create a community of practice by establishing opportunities for educators to exhibit their talent alongside their students, such as in exhibitions, performances, workshops, blogs. They could tackle the challenges faced by teachers as practitioners, such as time and allotting time to pursue their craft. They could offer professional development to facilitate their interests and embed in professional development the concept of the teacher as practitioner. Educators, evaluate the value that creativity holds to you and your students. Negotiate a balance that works for you and work out a plan on how to achieve it rather than giving up your craft that you are so passionate. Express your whole person in the school. You never know who you might be inspiring. We encourage our students to be well-rounded global citizens. So should we encourage ourselves. So, who am I? Through my journey, I've nestled in this in-between space that unites all that I love to do. By doing, I unlock the possibilities for generating innovative lessons and curriculum that reflects real-world experiences and contemporary issues. Not only am I actively engaging in the real world, but I'm constantly thinking and reflecting on my practice as an educator who does.